everyone, my name is Dr. Amna Husain, board certified pediatrician, board certified lactation consultant, and mom. Today we're actually filming in my office, which is ironic enough because I'm going to be dispelling some common urban myths and legends that I bust for my families and now for you as well. Make sure you tune in to learn more. So first things first, let's start off with, is it okay for your baby or toddler to go outside if they have a cold? Whether or not they have a fever. So plus minus, they have a fever, they don't have a fever. Would it be okay? Yes, it is totally okay for your child to go outside if they have a cold. You can't get sick with cold symptoms simply from being out in the cold. You can get hypothermia, which is something completely different, or frostbite, which is very different. But being out in the cold doesn't necessarily mean you're going to catch a virus. Viruses do tend to thrive more in drier and colder temperatures generally. Usually that drives people indoors. And yes, indoors is where we can possibly pass viruses back and forth to each other. But as a follow-up question, will going outside actually make things worse for your child? So this is also not true. Going outside sometimes can actually help. For example, in the case of croup, inhaling that cooler air can actually help symptoms, but not always. Sometimes you can actually have worse symptoms. For example, your nose does produce more mucus to sort of moisturize that cold, dry temperature and add sort of more humidity to the air that's going in through the nose. So if you already have a cold or you are outside and you start experiencing a runny nose, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting sick or that your symptoms are getting worse, but just that the nose is sort of trying to accommodate that cold, dry air and really warm and humidify the air that's going in. Your eyes may also start to water because the air is drier. And like I said, some symptoms can actually improve in the cold air and some symptoms potentially, for example, children who may have asthma, sometimes inhaling cooler air outside might actually cause them to have like a bronchospasm and worsen their cough. And if that's the case, then perhaps you wouldn't want to go outside. But just rest assured that typically going outside doesn't necessarily make your symptoms worse. What about this one? Is fresh air good for a cold? Now, this is something that I often hear, and I actually kind of agree with it. Maybe not in the initial days of the illness, but for example, as your child's starting to get better, maybe it's a nice way to sort of allow them to stretch their legs, get out, be exposed to another environment, especially if they are getting a little cooped up staying indoors. I think as a pediatrician and a parent, it's also a good test to see if they're actually okay to go back to school as well. Like if you see them running outside, playing, really engaged, that means that they have really good activity levels and feeling better to the point that maybe you feel comfortable sending them to school the next day, provided that they're no longer infectious, which is something you would clear with your pediatrician. All right, what about this last myth? Can you go outside with wet hair? My hair is very thick. It takes a long time for it to dry or air dry. So if I were to go outside with wet hair, is it going to make me sick? This is not true. All the moms, all the grandmothers out there might hate that I say this, but it's actually not going to make you more sick. Again, it might make you feel a little cooler because you might have wet hair rubbing against your neck or against your face, and then with the wind that's outside, it might feel a little bit more uncomfortable, or you might start to feel a little colder, but it's not necessarily going to make you sick or sick faster or make your cold worse. All right, I hope that helped. If you guys are interested in more evidence-based medicine and hearing pediatrics taught to you by a pediatrician, then make sure you hit subscribe below. Tune in next week for more videos. Thanks.